When you've got a tiny data set, it's really easy to just eyeball it and see what the biggest numbers are, the smallest numbers, and the ones in between. But when that data set gets massive, that's when we need our formulas like min, max, large, and small. And that's what I'm going to show you today. So to illustrate these formulas, I've pulled together a subset of our movie data where I've just got the box office gross in $1 million as our column for values on the right. I'm going to show you how to get the biggest grossing, the smallest grossing, the fifth biggest, the top three, and the bottom three. And then stay tuned at the end because I'm going to combine it with another formula to bring that data into information. So for this example, I've highlighted in the table the biggest value, 620 here, which is Star Wars: The Last Jedi. To get that with a formula though, we're going to use the max formula, and it is dead easy. We type equals max, open brackets, and then we can do it on a whole column like this, F to F, or we could just point at a range of values here, close the brackets, hit enter, and we've got 620, which is this value here. Getting the smallest value, which again I've highlighted for you, is just as easy apart from we use the min formula. So in this cell, equals min, open brackets, and then we're going to pick the range here, close the brackets, hit enter, and there you go, 229, the value of the smallest grossing movie in this data set. But what about if we wanted to get the fifth biggest or the fourth biggest? Or what about if we had a massive sample data set like this that had absolutely thousands of rows and we wanted to get the 152nd biggest, so the nth biggest in the table? Doing that manually would be nearly impossible, so we need a formula that's dynamic and gives us that ability. This is where large comes in, so equals large, open brackets, and then again we can do it on the whole column or we can do it on a range. And then we want to put a comma and then 5 for the fifth biggest, close the brackets, hit enter, and we've got 413, our fifth biggest value in the table. So that's the fifth biggest value, but what if you want the fifth smallest one? Well, it's as simple as changing the large to the word small. So change large to small, and then we've got the fifth smallest value. I've highlighted it in the table for you as an example. So to get your top three, you could use max for your biggest one, or you could use large 1, and for 2 and 3, you could use large 2, large 3. There's rarely a right or wrong way of doing things in Excel, but there's often a better way or a more efficient way. So let me show you the best way, I think, to get these values for the top three. So whilst you could put the nth number in the formula, so as we did before, we put equals large, and then in this case, I'm just going to pick the whole column, put a comma and put 1, close that off, and we get the biggest value in there. So you can do that, or you can reference a cell instead of this 1 here. So if I just put this 1 next to it here, hit enter, and then change that 1 to a cell reference. So I'm going to just hit delete, click on that instead. So it's going to use that as its nth value, hit enter, and we get the same value. Now the benefit of this is we can then scroll that down and we're going to get hashtag number, and that's because we haven't got any references to the left of it. But if we put 2 in there and 3 in there, suddenly we've got a top 3. Now if I wanted to scroll both columns down, I could get my top 100 in seconds. To get the bottom 3, the easiest way from this point would just be to copy the cells we've got. So drag over them, Control C to copy, and then click in this cell here, Control V to paste them in there. And we've got the large again, so we want to change that to small. Hit enter, and that's going to give us the bottom 1. We then want to drag this formula down, and then we've got our bottom 3, dead easy. So we're still very much in the data realm. We've got our bottom 3 and our top 3 highest grossing and lowest grossing movies, but the values of those in our currency. If we wanted to make some sense of that, we'd have to translate it back into which movie that related to. At the moment, we'd have to do that manually by scanning the table ourselves. I'm going to show you how to use the VLOOKUP formula, which I did a recent video on, which is going to then show you how to translate that data into some usable info. One of the restrictions of VLOOKUP, and something I'm going to show you how to get around in the next few videos, is that it works from left to right. So you need your lookup column to be on the leftmost part of your data. To get around this, I've just taken a copy of our data from Box Office Gross and put it in the column on the left. So our VLOOKUP formula would read equals VLOOKUP, open brackets. We want our lookup value first, which is this 620. Hit your comma, and then the range. So this is our lookup array, and we want all of the values in there. We don't need the G column because that's just a repeat of the first one here. So that's our range that we're looking in. Then we put a comma, and then we want our column index number. So column index 1 is the lookup value. So that would be VLOOKUP in this case. Release year would be column 2. 3 would be studio, and 4 would be the one we want, title. So we want to put 4, and then comma, and then we want to type false, and that will give us an exact match only. So if it can't find the match, it won't go looking for something else or the nearest value. Close your brackets, hit enter, and we get Star Wars The Last Jedi. Now if we scroll that down, we should get the other movies for the 532, Rogue One, A Star Wars Story, and Beauty and the Beast, the third biggest one there, 504. To use that again, we would just literally copy it. So Control C and then Control V, paste it in here, and that gives us our bottom 3 using that VLOOKUP.